Right now, you're watching this video, and if I asked you why, really why, you probably wouldn't say, I was curious about human evolution. You'd say something like, I was bored. Think about that for a second. You had access to the entire internet, every song ever recorded, every movie ever made, billions of photos, articles, and games sitting in a device in your pocket, and you were still bored enough to look for something else. Now here's the question nobody has thought to ask. What did ancient humans do when that feeling hit? Because for 300,000 years, there was no screen to turn to, no feed to scroll, no algorithm waiting to fill the silence. There was just the feeling. And what they did with it may be the most important thing our species has ever done. Here's what we get wrong about ancient humans. We picture them as constantly busy, hunting, foraging, building fires, surviving. Every waking hour, a desperate scramble against extinction. That image is almost completely wrong. Researchers studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, found something that broke their expectations. The Hadza, who live almost exactly as our ancestors did, spend between 6 and 9 hours per day doing what we would call nothing. Not sleeping, not hunting, not making tools. Sitting, resting, being present with no particular purpose. 6 to 9 hours. The average modern office worker gets maybe 20 minutes. So ancient humans weren't running from boredom. They were swimming in it. They had enormous stretches of unstructured time with no instruction, no agenda, no notification to answer. The question isn't whether they got bored. The question is what happened inside a human brain when it had nowhere to go. In 2001, a neuroscientist named Marcus Rachel made an accidental discovery. He was running brain scans on patients, watching which parts of the brain activated during tasks. Standard procedure. But then he noticed something strange happening when he told the patients to stop. When they had nothing to do, a specific network of brain regions lit up, not dimmed down, lit up. He called it the default mode network. Your brain doesn't go quiet when you're bored. It goes to work. The default mode network is where your brain does its most essential functions, processing your own memories, imagining other people's perspectives, thinking about the future, building your sense of self. It's where creativity lives, where empathy is assembled, where identity is constructed. And here's what matters. It only fully activates in the absence of external stimulation. The moment you pick up your phone, it shuts off. Ancient humans, sitting by a fire with nothing pressing to do, were running their default mode networks at full power for hours, every single day. Their minds were wandering, and wandering minds are not wasted minds. Studies from the University of California have shown that people who allow more unstructured mind-wandering score significantly higher on creative problem-solving tests. Not slightly higher. Significantly. Your brain, left alone, starts making connections between things that have never been connected before. That's not a side effect of boredom. That is boredom's entire purpose. So what did it look like? They sit. A group of 8 or 12 people. The fire is low. The hunt ended hours ago. There's nothing left to do before tomorrow. Someone starts humming. That matters more than it sounds. Musicologists who study the earliest human artifacts believe musical behavior, rhythmic humming, clapping, percussion, predates language itself. It was likely the first thing bored ancient humans reached for. Not because they decided to invent music, because their minds, drifting and unoccupied, started to play. Then someone tells a story. Not to teach a lesson, not to pass on survival wisdom, just to fill the air, just because the image appeared in their mind and they wanted to see where it went. Anthropologists call this coalitionary storytelling, the telling of shared narratives among small groups as a social bonding mechanism. Robin Dunbar, the British evolutionary psychologist who famously studied group size limits, found that storytelling accounts for nearly 65% of all human conversation time even today. We are, at our core, a species that tells stories when we have nothing else to do. And then there are the caves. Chauvet, Lascaux, Altamira. Cave paintings that stretch back 40,000 years. Nobody knows exactly why ancient humans painted them. What we do know is where these caves were located. Deep underground, far from the cave entrances where people slept and cooked. These weren't utilitarian spaces. They were quiet, dark, removed from the activity of daily life. People went to those places specifically to be alone with their hands and their minds. They went to those places when they were bored. And they created something that would survive 40,000 years. In 2015, the American Psychological Association published a series of studies on boredom tolerance. What they found was alarming. Most people, when placed in a room with no phone and no stimulus for just 15 minutes, reported the experience as genuinely distressing. In one follow-up experiment, participants were given the option to administer a mild electric shock to themselves to break the monotony. 2/3 did it. They chose pain over silence. We have become so conditioned to constant stimulation that the neutral state, the state our ancestors lived inside for hours every day, now registers in our brains as suffering. And that gap is not small. It has consequences. Rates of clinical anxiety in the developed world have risen steadily since the mass adoption of smartphones. Rates of reported loneliness have increased. Rates of creativity-linked outcomes, patents filed per capita, new small businesses started, artistic output among young people, have declined in the same period. This isn't coincidence. Every time you fill the silence with a scroll, you interrupt the exact neurological process that built civilization. The cave painters weren't talented, they were bored. The first storytellers weren't visionaries, they were bored. Every song, every myth, every invention that began with someone staring at nothing and thinking, what if, it started from the same place you're trying to escape right now. There's a specific kind of discomfort that comes with doing nothing. You felt it. That restless, vaguely guilty feeling when you're not being productive, when your mind starts to drift and you reach automatically for something to stop it. That feeling isn't weakness. It's ancient. Your brain, 300,000 years in the making, is telling you it wants to run. It wants to connect and wander and build things that don't exist yet. It's asking for the same empty space that ancient humans sat inside every day, not as a deprivation, but as a resource. The algorithm didn't invent human creativity. It ate it. Ancient humans didn't fill the silence. They turned it into everything we have. Your boredom isn't a malfunction. It's the most human thing about you.